a whole different mindset because it's not like Greg doesn't just play the drums when Ringo sings. You're playing along with Ringo,
Yes.
which he never did in his early days. So, Greg's going to explain what that's like. You don't want to overstep your bounds, but
Right.
you have to be there to help. Where do you slot in playing next to a legend
Yes.
and how you get through all that? You find
But first, Vin Scully, please do me a favor. Don't record this. I know that's hard to say in 2022, but this was a personal video that my friend got me because Vin was in his studio. He thinks I got the gig over Ringo or something. Here we go.
Big congratulations on your great 6 year. I don't know Ringo, but certainly you have displaced him with the drums. So continued success.
I love this man.
awesome.
He said when he retired, they said, "What are you going to do?" He said, "Well, I'm going to buy a smaller house and a larger medicine chest." That's Vin Scully.
I've gotten to know Joe Torre through the years, and I do his benefits for his Safe at Home.
Wow.
And Joe told me he begged him to come back that last year and do the World Series.
Yeah.
It would be, a victory lap. Please come call the. And he
Yeah.
said, absolutely not. I said, why? He said, because then it would be about me, and it should be about the game. He said, but Vin, every baseball fan wants to hear your call one last time. He said, and that's why I won't do it. Focus on the players. And in my life, I never heard of anyone that self-effacing. And Joe said, no matter what I said, I knew it wasn't money. I'm like, the fans, do you understand how much we'd love it? Like, yes, but it should be about the game. I'm like, he said he wouldn't budge. And I thought, what a man.
Well, can I be a little bit like Vin right now and say, I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about the reason I play drums and the reason that Ken plays drums, Ringo.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Ringo. How do you play? You can play an instrument with Ringo playing drums. We've seen everybody in the All-Stars do that. We've seen Paul and John and George and Billy Preston. What is the trick to playing drums with Ringo?
Okay, thank you. What a great question, Ken. I have a bird's eye view of Ringo's right foot and his left hand. So the trick is to just watch and listen and don't get in the way. And just like I did when I was 6, 7 years old, I put on the headphones, put on our little, stereo and plugged my headphones in and played along with, I got something to say that might cause you pain. In that, what they call pocket. Pocket and groove are similar. The word groove came about when LPs were playing and the needle would fall into a groove and that needle would stay in that groove. You want to stay in the groove with Ringo. Just like Chris and I last night, we're looking at each other and laughing. We were playing Hey Jude, and we knew every Ringo, every little fill, because we grew up on it, and that's what taught us how to be song drummers. Right, Chris? How about a hand for Chris, the drummer in Liverpool? What a great drummer. What a great band. So, Ken, that question is all about looking over and seeing his foot and seeing his hand. And if he's going like this. Now that shoulder, that left shoulder, even though he's left-handed and he's playing on a right-handed kit, that left shoulder, as Ken and I demonstrated yesterday, that left shoulder moves in when the bass drum hits like this. For those of you over here, you can't see it. You play your bass drum and you go. And it's just, oh, bah, oh, bah. That's Ringo's pocket. That's Ringo's swing. That's his groove. One of the first drummers I ever saw hit a left-handed crash because he's a lefty. Most of us are going, what is that? Because usually a right-handed drummer would crash. These are crashes. Would crash with the right hand. All of a sudden, the Ed Sullivan show's on, and Ringo's going like this. What was that? He crashed with his left. And so that's one of the coolest things. But that's in a long-winded answer to a short question. That's how I have a relationship drumming-wise with my favorite drummer and favorite song drummer from my favorite band. I also, it's kind of like Ken and I right now. When he's talking, unlike a lot of radio and TV and late night talk shows these days, it's all, I can't even listen to half the radio I used to listen to because you got these three sports experts and they're all interrupting each other. No, what I did, no, and they're interrupting each other. What happened to the art of looking into each other's eyes and going, Ken just finished what he was talking about. Then he leaves a pause and then I talk. Like Ken said yesterday, he's not interviewing me. We're having a conversation for you and for us. So when you play with Ringo, you have a conversation with him. You get to have a conversation with your favorite drummer, your favorite song drummer from your favorite band. And when you see him attempt to do a fill, not attempt, he's going to do the fill, but when you see him start to do a fill, for those of you that don't know, here's a fill. This is a groove. Here's a fill. If you see him in slow motion, I'm going to go, then you don't do that. If Ken looks at you and puts his finger up and goes, ah, then you go, yeah, Ken, what were you going to say there? And you just, it's like the old Carson show. Johnny Carson was so respectful to the guests and funny when he interviewed Buddy Rich, everybody. So the art of communication, not just going to Starbucks and you're the only person that's not doing this and doing this. You're talking to somebody. The art of conversation that you are still amazing at keeping going.
Bless you. That's so kind. But you're absolutely true. That's a good interview is we listen to each other. I've never had a list of questions. We're talking as friends, and you guys are sitting at the table. But playing music together, we're so amazed at the quality of musicianship, of technology to do it, that to sit next to each other and do that. I asked the same question to Mickey Hart, through the years. I've been fortunate enough to meet lots of folks. I said, so how do you play double drums in the Grateful Dead? And he said, I was just at a gig, in San Francisco, hanging out, getting high, watching the Dead, and this girl comes up to me and says, you play drums. You should be in that band. And I said, well, they got a drummer. And she said, they need another drummer. And I thought she worked for the band. So I went backstage, and it's the 60s, and it's loose. I said, so some girl said you were looking for another drummer? And Jerry said, I guess we could. And I didn't find out till later. It was just another fan. She didn't work for him. So he said, well, come over to the house and hang out. And we just hung out for a week or so, and we got along. And he said, well, let's try it. And he said, how did I learn to play with Billy? He said, by just jamming for hours and hours and learning. No, he likes to do this part. So I'll lay back and do the groove. And feeling, because he was the first drummer, so if I can just hear that if he's stuck, if he's not going to do what I think he's going to do, I'll do it. And that's that conversation that Greg said, like with your partner, if you've been living with them forever, you know that they're going to say something before they say it. You know that you're going to shut up because they're going to tell a great story.
I have a great story.
Please.
How many of you have seen Ringo's Masterclass? This is sad. Two people. Ringo has just done masterclass.com. Everybody and their brother. Questlove has one on there.
You should do one. You should do one.
I'd love to. But the thing is, Ringo said, I'll do it. Because he didn't take lessons. He didn't learn to read. He doesn't teach. I love teaching. And my degree was music education in college. He said, I'll do it if my drummer Greg comes up with the questions and asks me the questions, and we play drums together on it. So it's a really amazing class. And all you do is sign up for masterclass.com for a year, and you watch. You'll learn more about Ringo than you could ever imagine. And him talking, and he's 81 years young. He looks like he's 51 tops, right?
Yeah.
And he talks about everything. He talks about his childhood. He talks about joining the Beatles, talks about being in Rory Storm. He talks about playing skiffle back in Liverpool. He talks about working in the factory. He talks about going to Hamburg with them, with Rory, and then hearing the Beatles. He talks about Brian Epstein knocking on his door. Could you play the afternoon session at the Cavern? He talks about so many things that I guarantee you haven't heard before. He talks about his art, his painting. Neil Glazer's got the room right here with all of his great art. He talks about that. He talks about the Lotus Foundation. He talks about the All-Starr Band, playing with other musicians. And then there's a jam at the end with Joe Walsh, Steve Lukather, Jim Cox, Nathan East, Jim Keltner, Ringo, and I. And you got to watch Masterclass.com. It saddens my heart that he put so much of his time and effort into this, but I'm at the #1 place in the world this weekend for Beatle fans. Only one person saw it. That's, it's like a...
We can fix that.
Can you fix that?
We can fix that very quickly.
All right.
Nice friends to have to come over. Like, wait, so who's on the album? I called Steve and I called, and Greg, and I call these friends, and then he adds, and of course my brother-in-law has to come.
Yeah.
Like, when you ask your brother-in-law to either help move a couch or play on your album, it doesn't matter. It's your brother-in-law. He's got to come. So it kind of works out that way.
Yeah. So do we have any questions?
Any
because
questions
some of
from
you
you
weren't
guys?
here.
Ringo questions, music questions?
Yes, right here. Yeah. Yeah.
Please ask Ringo to attend a fest.
Okay. When I first got with Ringo in 2003, with Ringo and the Roundheads, I got some really great advice from his main guy. He said, if you want to last a long time, and I thank God it's been 19 years, don't ever ask Ringo to do anything. Don't knock on his door and say, my cousin Johnny Bag of Donuts is here from Poughkeepsie. He wants to say hi. Or can you do this modern drummer story? Or, hey, you can. I just never have. And I'm his friend and his drummer and his bandmate. And I just don't go there. And as much as I would love to accommodate you, it's not my gig. I got to stay in my lane. But thank you. It would be amazing, wouldn't it? And I'll call Paul tomorrow, too, and mention to him to come to Chicago. I'm kidding.
But
no.
But it goes to something, and you guys all the time, like, is there any chance you could reach out to Paul and ask him, because if he knew my story, I'm sure, just an email or something, and I understand, but if you put yourself in their position since they were 17 years old, that we're talking, when you think of how many times you've been asked to help or do something, what if you've literally been asked over 1 million times in your life?
Yeah.
And if you open up that door a little, you can't. It's either closed or it's open.
Yeah, and he does his things that are, of course, like I said, the Lotus Foundation. Rob, are you giving that mic to somebody with a...
Yes.
Here we go, right here.
Yes.
Yes. Now I wish my mother had put me in drum lessons instead of accordion.
Very much so. Unless you like polka music, because there's a lot of the Riverhead. I can't let her, she's too fat, she's too fat for me.
Hey, she's too fat for me.
Very nice.
Roll out the barrel. Everybody, come on.
Right.
We'll have a barrel of fun. Hey, hey, hey. Zim, boom, Jarrera. Come sing a song of good cheer. Hey, who doesn't love a polka? So, I grew up in Detroit, in the Greek, Italian, Polish part of town. I know my polkas, but what was your question,
He
sir?
had a few accordions there. So,
Can I tell my accordion joke?
sure.
So this guy has a really, really expensive accordion, and he just finished playing a wedding, a Polish wedding, and he stops at the 7-Eleven. He's like, man, I got to get a coffee for this drive home, but my really expensive accordion that my grandmother spent so much money, it's in the back seat. I'm gonna beep, beep, I'm gonna double lock it. Did I lock it? Beep, beep, beep. It's locked. I'm gonna get that coffee. He comes out, and he's so sad because the windows are all smashed. Somebody broke in and put another accordion in the back seat. Okay, sorry. What's the question?
I'm used to being the butt
Perfect
of
joke.
jokes. I'm used to it.
Okay.
I'm sure.
We get a lot of drummer jokes, so I had to fight back.
You want drummer jokes? I'll whisper some drummer jokes in your ear for you.
So, it seems to me that Ringo's drumming really evolved a lot around 65 or so, getting into the psychedelic era with all those juicy fills and the false endings and everything. Was he basically the guy who created that? Was he the innovator at that point?
Thank you for that question.
And also, along with that is, it sounds like every other rock band started doing that afterwards. Is that just...
Absolutely.
Is my impression pretty correct?
Absolutely. Great question. And I couldn't agree more. I remember being a kid. I saw the Beatles in Detroit when I was 7 in 66. And I remember going to the Woolworths 5 and Dime, and I see this rack of all these other bands called the Birds, the Animals, the Turtles, the Rolling Stones. Sorry. Everything was that's the Beatles thing. The Beatles, But anyway, sorry to digress on that. Yeah, Ringo's fills, you might say, opened up because, as you know, when he was touring, he couldn't even go to the toms. As Ken said yesterday, he had to stare at the motion just to get the vibe of the groove of the band he was setting the groove for. So to go to the toms, you couldn't even hear the toms. But then you're in the studio, and you put tea towels on your drums, and things open up so you can play beats like this. Wow, right? Or and you can hear what you're doing. Just look at Get Back. He's sitting there. None of them had headphones on, which to most recording studio musicians are going, both venues they were recording in, they didn't have headphones. And you see George Martin coming in and saying, we can put the speakers here, but the reason you're getting feedback is they're playing in a room like we play, like Chris and I played last night. We're this far away from me. And he's just hanging out, and there's an idea, and he's like, oh. Yeah. And he's there, and he's communicating. So, yeah, his fills began to open up because they could hear themselves, I think. And the deadening of the kick drum, the reason that I was so fortunate to play on this kit, Ringo had the Black Oyster Pearl Ludwig kit. I play a great drum company called Dixon, and they're based in St. Louis. And when Ringo saw that I changed to Dixon, we did a whole rehearsal, and then he walked out front to talk to Todd Rundgren, and he looks at my bass drum, and he goes, Dixon, Willie Dixon. And I went, wow, I was wondering how he was going to like the name Dixon. He associated it with Willie Dixon, the guy, the bass player, songwriter, who actually wrote Whole Lot of Love, and Zeppelin ripped them, and then later they had to pay the Willie Dixon estate. He goes, Willie Dixon, yeah. So I got the thumbs up, but I was going to play a Ludwig Black Oyster Pearl kit today. Dixon's a smaller company, and they didn't have a kit in New York. But when they mentioned I could play on the maple-colored kit, I said, wow, like the Hollywood kit that George bought for Ringo that's, in the Get Back movie and the later Beatle era kit, the Come Together kit. So anyway, yes, the playing has changed. Everything changed. They could hear each other better, and what a great question.
And by the way, to that end, and I'd love you to talk about it a bit. We were talking about, I asked the boss that very question we were talking about before Get Back came out, and I said, we're talking about the All-Starr Band, when you warm up, do you do that? Do you listen? Is it all amped? Is everything in monitors? And he just volunteered. He said, I'll tell you a funny story. We were going out, and he said, suddenly it was sound check, and there was smoke coming out of the monitor board. Do you remember
Red
this?
Rocks. I wasn't
yes.
in the band then, but that's Red Rocks.
It was Red Rocks. The board is smoking, and they unplug it like Bob would be. Everybody yanks cords, and they replug it. What's going on? The monitor system's fried. We can't get another board in time. The PA will be fine, but we have no monitors. And I'm not going to mention which musician said, well, we can't play. And I never heard him raise his voice in an interview. And he said to me, like quoting himself, what do you mean we can't play? Of course we're playing. Well, and he does well, how are we going to play if we don't have monitors? And Ringo, we're going to listen to each other. Just what Mr. Bissonette said.
All they had was that system at Shea. They didn't have individual monitors, or as they call them in England, foldback. And Ringo said, he told me that the only guy that needed amplification was Howard Jones, was playing with the amp, bop, 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 bop. Oh, that sounds so great. I just jammed with Howard 3 weeks ago. We played a big corporate show in Orlando, and we talked about that. But Ken's right. They did not have monitors. And he said after they got off stage, all of them said, that was fun.
Yeah.
Listening to each other. Not, here's my monitor with my drums really loud. When you have monitors, you're spoiled because you have a great monitor engineer over here, and you just say, more guitar, less bass, more snare, less kick, more vocals, and you get your own little stereo mix. The Beatles didn't have any of that. Yes, Rob, we got another question.
Yeah, thank you for being here and taking the questions. Just curious, because you mentioned about playing with them on stage and that communication, but I'm curious, having seen the All-Star Band a couple times in the last 10 years or so, just what is it like for you guys? I mean, obviously age and Ringo's dexterity has something to do with it. The songs that Ringo chooses to play, the songs where you're supporting him, the songs where he's taking lead, maybe talk a little bit about that and how that comes together with the set list and what's being played and et cetera.
We have a great thank you for that great question. We have a really great musical director, and I just spoke to him right before I went on stage, and he can't be here because of the bubble he has to be in.
They know him well.
I know you do. I was just going to lead up to that. Because of the Billy Joel bubble, Mark Rivera, and I just spoke, and Mark Rivera is Billy Joel's MD, but he's Ringo's MD, and he's going to rehearse us next month before we go out, right? So Mark and Ringo talk about the set. None of us go, hey, you really ought to end with, now it's time to. It's not my place to say that. He wants to end on a high note, little help and give peace a chance. So I'm not going to mention, you should play this, Anyway, Mark Ringo wants to play the hits. I remember once Todd Rundgren going, oh, bang on the drum again, really? Because if you go see Todd's shows, he doesn't always play the hits, right? He doesn't always play the hits. Well, Ringo says, come on, Todd, I'm playing Little Help and Yellow Submarine. Play that song, it's like the hits. So anyway, great question, but I have a feeling, I know one thing, and that Edgar Winter is joining us again.
Nice.
And we're going to play.
And
it starts, in a laboratory once upon a time, at work was a doctor named Frankenstein. Ba, ba, ba. And we're going to do Free Ride, the hits.
Great song.
Ringo says we're the best 1-800 hit band in the world. So anyway.
But something that Greg mentioned yesterday that he sort of suggested, and that I know Mark Rivera has suggested, you said, it was something that Ringo played. It was a groove that you touched on before. Did you mention the idea of doing, what was it, Tomorrow Never Knows?
Oh,
sneaking it in?
No, that's a John song. So Ringo doesn't want to, he says, what am I going to do next? Sing Yesterday?
But
it's not, we're not going to do Tomorrow Never Knows.
But so like I sit in Rivera's ear going, do you know how great it would be? Do you know how great it would be? Do you know at every venue, if you went into Tomorrow Night, you just do 4 bars of it, the place will explode. Do you know that? And he like, just like Craig going, well, it's not the question. It's how you bring it up and try to explain. But you know that if you suddenly went into Tomorrow Never Knows
on the gig,
the place would go.
I'd be
crazy.
hung by my thumbs. That's not. I would never do that.
If you did it. If you did it,
like,
whatever venue you're in would go nuts. Radio City.
And I wouldn't be the All-Star drummer anymore. Anyway, that would be fun, but there's things, I have to tell you all, because I don't know. How many of you are musicians? Raise your hand. Okay, one of the codes of the West, one of the unwritten codes, people say, how do I get a gig? I want to get a gig. I want to play in a band. How do I play in a band? What's the secret? I keep practicing, and I'm sitting in my room playing along with YouTube. Well, don't just play along with YouTube, because you follow YouTube. Play with a bass player that has a pulse, that is alive. Play with a guitar player and work the groove, the pocket out like that. But 50% of the whole pie is how do you play? The other 50% has nothing to do with how you play. It's what kind of a person are you? Are you somebody that complains about everything? Oh, I can't believe the backstage food. I didn't get first class. How come the bus? How come the plane? How come I'm not in the blah, 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 blah. If you complain in this business, I don't care if you're playing at the Enormo Dome or the Club Foot, you won't last. You got to be thankful that you are playing your instrument in front of people and giving that joy to people, and you make a living at it. I don't think I've ever worked a day in my life. My only job has been playing the drums, and that's what I would be doing if I was doing any other job. Every minute of the day that I could, I'd be playing the drums. Well, I get paid to do that. So
could take that to heart.
So thank you, but the whole thing is, if you can really, I love people. Not a lot of people love people, especially in 2022 when it's so isolated and everyone's on their phone and everyone's doing social media digs and they're bagging on somebody. A musician that thinks, well, Billy, Bobby, Susan, whatever your name, the guitar, you're rushing the guitar part and you're messing with my groove. You don't ever call Susie, Billy, Bobby, Jimmy, whoever it is, the guitar player, out in front of other people. When you take a break, you go, Sue, can you talk to you for a second? I'm trying. I got my metronome that tells me the tempo. I'm playing with a loop on this song. Your guitar is so ahead of the beat that I don't want to sound weird, but it's kind of messing with me, so I have to turn you down in my monitor. Oh, don't turn me down. Well, I'm having a hard time. Can you try to get in the groove with me? Sure. As opposed to you call Susie or whoever it is out in front of people. Well, I think you're slowing down, man. I mean, it'll get confrontational because of the defensiveness. Take the drama out. I'm 62. I want to play drums when I'm 100, when they put me in a box, okay? And the way you do that, thank you. The way you do that is you love people. And we are all created equal. In my opinion, God created us all equal, whether you've got no money or you're a gazillionaire or you don't have a gig or you got the greatest gigs or you have a home or you're on the street. We are all, every one of us, are equal. And for anybody to come off with an attitude, or especially when they're making a living playing music, there's no place for that. So I feel strongly that if you want to be a successful player, whether you're playing at a pub down the street or a big concert, just love everybody and love people and get along with people and find ways to take the drama out. You couldn't imagine, I don't care what band it is, you could be playing anywhere, drama and band drama. They call it winding each other up. And Rob and I have been winding each other up for 2 days now. That's kind of a thing. But that kind of thing, if it's not done like we're doing it in a friendship kind of way, there are people when you show up to a sound check at any gig anywhere in the world, and all they can wait to do is talk rumors. And they're rumors. They're fake news rumors about somebody else. Did you hear what someone said? Don't buy into it, man. Just that's not cool. Just, hey, I don't know anything about that. All I know is we're going to play music today and we're going to have fun and we're going to give back to the people. Don't get into the drama and the weeds. It never works.
And to me, that goes for a band, or if you work in a hardware store,
or a radio show,
or a radio station, for sure. I'm blessed. The reason we've been going this long is we have each other's backs. You know, I had posted that. this is my, at Q. I just started my 24th 24th year.
Come on.
It's not for that, but it's because we protect each other. Because
Yeah.
if something happens and somebody steps on each other, you don't blast them. You go, hey, can I get a cup of coffee? I want to talk to you.
In private.
And you're private. But to a gentleman who's here this weekend, Billy J. Kramer, and he had done a big British, I love our Billy. He did this big British, there was a resurgence of British invasion about 5 years ago, did this big tour of the UK, first time forever, and he had this amazing guitarist who had once played with John, and we won't mention his name, but as he told me, everything was always wrong.
Yeah.
It took too long. They said it would take 2 hours. It took 3. The hotel, the food, the food stays, every gig, there's not enough food or it's cold. And Liberty DeVito, Lib was like, he said, he's driving me crazy. How do you do it? He goes, I just don't listen. He goes, but you hear, he goes, I've learned to tune it out.
Tune it out.
And at one point, Billy made a change. And even though this guy was an amazing player, he said, this isn't working, and changed to Adam Roth, may he rest in peace, this lovely guy.
Yeah.
And I said to Billy, how did it change? He said, the thing I always used to do, even back with the Dakotas, after we played a gig, train, coach, band, whatever, I would always say to the band, what'd you think? And tell me honestly what you thought of the gig. And Adam, even if it was a terrible gig and they weren't paid what they were told and it was cold, Adam Roth would say, well, I think about how many dishes I would have had to wash when I was a dishwasher starting my own band to earn what I earned tonight.
Punchline right there. Speaking of tuning it out, somebody's negative. I just tuned it in and bought the new, not new, but I bought Mark Lewison's book, and he signed it for me. So I got a lot of reading to do.
That'll keep you busy on the road.
This will keep me busy on the flight back tomorrow.
All right, I got a question for you. I know we got to go.
Oh, we have one right here, too.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you so much. We'll make sure that you're buried in a bass drum, okay?
Thank you. I'm going to be cremated. So I actually already brought my funeral plot. When my parents passed away, they said, hey, if you buy a plot now, it's $6,000. Now it's like $13,000. It's like real estate. So put me in the bass drum in that.
Perfect, right? I'm one of the 2 people that saw the Masterclass, but just so you know, it is fantastic.
All right, excellent. You saw the Masterclass.
Yes, this gentleman right here, he's in it, too. It made it even more special. That was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm a drummer, and whatever. I grew up with Ringo. I was, drumming in the Beatles, of course. And
what's your name?
I'm Pauline.
Pauline what?
Anson Dross, and I'm from the Washington, D.C. area.
Great.
And I performed with the Magical Mystery Girls over the weekend.
Oh, my gosh. I missed that. The Magical Mystery
Thank
Girls.
you. But I know that Ringo was very big on rumbas. You know, he grew up in all. Could you play for me, because it drives me crazy. I don't know how he does it. I Feel Fine.
Okay, thank you.
That's a tough.
Where do you think he got that?
I'm not sure.
I'll tell you.
Rumba.
Can you hang for 1
background.
second? Because this is good. Ringo, one of his favorite. Where did they get Billy Preston? From what band?
Little Richard, where he started.
Well, who was he touring with at the time of Get Back? Ray Charles. What was Ray Charles' big? Don't leave us. What I say, baby, what I say.
right,
Baby,
Ray
what I
Charles.
say. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Ringo reversed it. Boom, bang, 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 bang. Baby's good to me. So he reversed Baby What I Say. Good
Perfect.
question.
Genius.
Thank you.
Genius.
Roll
so
up
much, Greg.
for the Mystery Girls.
By the way, it's something. It seems so simple, but Greg, you did just kick snare. The power of that boom, chop, boom, chop.
Baby's good to me, you know, happy as can be, you know. A reverse.
The power of that is incredible.
His grooves, Ringo's grooves, man, you can tell. I'm going to do a quiz with you right now. I've got 8 minutes left, and I'm going to do a quiz. I'm going to play the beat, and you yell as loud as you can what the song is. You ready? Birthday. Anna, how about the other one that I asked him, how did you come up with the drum part on Charlie Callis? How did you come up with the drum part on this song? And he said, I think I just ripped off what I did on Anna. And he got the Anna beat, you know, from Anna, the original. But anyway, this one, it's very similar. There a place in my life. How about this one? Raise your hand if you know it.
Yes. What is it?
She loves you.
She loved.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many. We talked about this one yesterday and Ringo's Swing, and Ken guessed this right away. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. My same masked friend.
Brilliant.
Very good.
It's absolutely brilliant.
Tell me why.
It's one thing, you know, you thought it was you know, like, hey, he was just showing off on the drums. But what Greg pointed out yesterday, if you don't mind mentioning again, the difference between hitting the hi-hat like this and when he called the wash. If I always thought of, you know, you used to see the singers do this when they were, you know, the Steve Lawrence guys, you know, they would do this. It's kind of the way he played the hi-hat was.
Yeah, and
See
he talks
the
about
difference
this.
in that?
I'm sorry.
Look at the difference. Listen to the difference between Greg playing straight.
Wash. He talks about this a lot in Masterclass. I want you all to watch Ringo's Masterclass. It's like $15 or something a month.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's great.
That's a lot of money every month.
Did he ever, or did you ever ask, or did he ever volunteer, like, what his favorite groove was?
Yes. Cozy Cole. He says, as I live and breathe, Cozy Cole, Topsy. Topsy. Ba-do-ba-dee, boop-ba-boop-ba-boo-da-boom. Ba-do-ba-boop-ba-boop-ba-ba-bum. The floor tom. Ba-do-ba-dee, boop-ba-boop-ba-ba-ba-bum. Ba-do-ba-dee, boop-ba-boop-ba-ba-bum. Ba-da, 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 ba-ba. Cozy Cole, that swing, and his stepdad Harry bringing in all the Artie Shaw and the Glenn Miller and the Tommy Dorsey, Sarah Vaughan. He talks at great length about this in the Masterclass. Once again, I'm not hired by Masterclass to come here and pimp them out. I'm just telling you, watch it.
All right, so now we have to wrap up. What is your, Greg Bissonette, what's your favorite groove to play with the All-Stars?
Oh, with the All-Stars. It would be one that Ringo and I play together. A song that Ringo sings that we play double drums on. For this free Ludwig drum set, who's got the right answer? I don't really have the authority to give it away. But do you think you know?
Boys.
Boys. That's right. Now, there's two ways you can do Boys. You can do the, I've been told, I've been told. And the album version, it's a little slower. It's kind of like Billy J. Kramer's version of I Call Your Name. It's a little faster, and there's stops, right? There's a lot of stops. Billy had the original version. But with Ringo's version, there are no stops, and it's a little slower. But you honor the song, and you honor where you are, and you honor where Ringo wants to play Boys live. So I go, 1, 2, 3. And we both go to the floor top. I've been told when a boy and girl take a trip around the world. Hey, hey, man, when I look over at my hero, my favorite drummer, the drummer in my favorite band, the guy besides my dad, who's really my all-time favorite drummer, and my mom played jazz vibes in my dad's band. I look over and he wants Boys there. Let's go. And we're playing the floor. I'm playing my floor tom with Ringo. I can't believe this! And now he's going to wash the crowd. And I Want to Be Your Man is right up there too, because of course he sings that and plays drums, and we play double drums on that. I've got 2.5 minutes left. One more question, or you got an?
One more. We squeeze one more in.
Yes.
Yes. A song that's not on the set list that you wish he plays.
And the second part? I don't know the new set list for this upcoming tour yet, so maybe. And as far as a tune that I would love to play, we're going to do it tonight, but it's not my call. I just love it, and it starts like this. It's very playful, and the one time we did play it in 2005 in Ringo and the Roundheads, he gave me some advice. He goes, treat this song a little more playfully and play in the middle of the drum. This is a rim shot. This is the middle of the drum. Playful. Everybody, I'd like to be, come on.
Under the sea,
in an octopus's garden, in the shade.
But listen, knows where we've been. In an octopus's garden.
What a cool part this is. Watch this.
We could be.
How great is that? I gotta go. I'm gonna be taken up with
it's
a
all
hook.
those little ba-da-ba-ba. Hey,
how about a hand for Ken Dashow,
Greg
man?
Bissonette.
Thank you, guys. Peace and love. See you very soon on tour. Watch the Masterclass, please. You're gonna love it.
Greg, you're gonna be outside?
I'm gonna be right over here.
Greg's gonna be outside.
Saying
and
hi.
We're gonna come back and do our musicians forum, which is basically us just screwing around. And Greg was kind enough, I threatened him and offered $20 to come and play drums with us when we do this with Billy J, LJ, and Glenn, and we'll have some fun with that 5:30. Love you. Thank you. This is such a joy for me. Thank you. Greg Bissonette.